Joanna was 28 and very good at being in control. As a banker at one of the country's regional institutions, she spent her days analyzing numbers, minimizing risks, and building stable futures for other people. Her life was structured, predictable, safe. She liked it that way. Because when things were calculated, they couldn't surprise you. Which is why, when her mother announced she was getting remarried, Joanna's first instinct wasn't excitement. It was resistance. Joanna wasn't afraid of change. She was afraid of losing her place. And she had no idea that meeting her mother's future stepdaughter would change everything she thought she was protecting. Joanna had never wanted her mom to remarry. For years, it had been just the two of them, her and Suzy, against the world. After her father disappeared without a note, without a goodbye, without ever calling again, they learned how to survive on their own. They built routines, traditions, quiet strength. Joanna believed they didn't need anyone else. They had proven that already. When Suzy introduced Josh, Joanna expected to dislike him. But he was kind, patient, respectful. That almost made it worse, because if he had been awful, she would have had a reason to object. Instead, she had none, except the quiet fear that something sacred between her and her mother would change forever. Suzy had been fine without a man in the house. Why fix something that wasn't broken? As wedding preparations began, buffet tastings, cake selections, outfit fittings, Josh mentioned his daughter Emily. She was in the military, disciplined and devoted to her work. The wedding date had even been chosen to fit her leave schedule. But Emily kept getting delayed. First work held her back. Then weather grounded her flight. She missed the buffet tasting. She missed the meeting with the wedding planners. Joanna couldn't help thinking it felt like the universe interfering. Like maybe this marriage wasn't meant to happen. By the day of the outfit selection, they had nearly given up expecting her. Then the boutique door opened. Emily walked in like she belonged everywhere she stepped. Confident, but not arrogant. Effortlessly composed. She smiled at Suzy first, warm, respectful, and said, "That dress was made for a woman as beautiful as you." The compliment was natural, unforced. Suzy instantly recognized her from the countless video calls and framed photos in Josh's home. As Emily stepped forward to gently embrace Suzy, Joanna stood frozen. It wasn't just that Emily was beautiful, though she undeniably was. It was the calm strength in her posture, the softness in her voice, the quiet depth in her eyes. Joanna felt something shift inside her chest. Sudden and disorienting, like gravity had quietly rearranged itself. And for the first time since the engagement, Joanna forgot to be angry about the wedding. The boutique assistant excused herself to look for another size, and Suzy was called to the front desk to confirm a fitting appointment. Josh had stepped out to take a phone call. For the first time, Joanna and Emily were alone. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged. Emily stood a few feet away, hands loosely behind her back, observing the mirror where Joanna was still half-turned in a pale blue dress she hadn't even finished zipping. Joanna suddenly became hyper-aware of everything. The way the fabric hugged her waist, the way her hair fell over her shoulder, the fact that Emily was looking. "You don't look happy," Emily said gently. Joanna blinked. Of all the things she expected, that wasn't one of them. "I'm fine," she replied too quickly. Emily tilted her head slightly, studying her the way someone trained to notice details might. "That's not what your eyes are saying." That made Joanna's chest tighten. "It's just a lot," Joanna admitted, crossing her arms, defensive, protective. "It's been just me and my mom for years. This whole wedding feels sudden." Emily didn't interrupt, didn't correct her, didn't defend her father. Instead, she nodded. "I get that." Joanna looked at her properly then. "You do?" "My mom left when I was 12, Emily said calmly. Different story, same silence. A faint smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "It was just me and my dad after that, so I'm not exactly thrilled about sharing him either." That shifted something. The tension between them softened, not gone but reshaped. "So you're not here to convince me this is a fairy tale?" Joanna asked quietly. Emily's lips curved just slightly. "I'm here because he loves her, and because she makes him happy." A pause, "But that doesn't mean your feelings don't matter." The sincerity in her voice was disarming. Joanna turned back to the mirror, pretending to adjust the dress, though her hands trembled slightly. She felt Emily step closer, not touching, just near enough that her presence was warm, steady. "If it helps," Emily added softly, "I don't plan on replacing anything in your life." The air felt thinner. Joanna swallowed. "Good." A beat of silence. Then Emily reached forward, slowly, giving Joanna time to pull away, and lightly fixed the crooked strap on her shoulder. Her fingers brushed against Joanna's skin for barely a second. But it was enough. Joanna's breath hitched. Emily stepped back immediately, professional composure returning like armor sliding into place. "It suits you," she said, voice lower now. "The dress." Joanna wasn't sure if she meant the dress. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Suzy's voice floated back toward them. The moment ended. But as Emily moved away, Joanna realized something terrifying. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of her mom getting remarried. She was afraid of what was starting between them. After the outfit selection day, something shifted between them. Joanna found herself lingering in rooms Emily occupied, sitting closer than necessary, offering to show her around town. Their conversations became easy, teasing, thoughtful, sometimes unexpectedly deep. Emily had a way of listening that made Joanna feel seen, not just heard. But then there were the phone calls. They always seemed to happen at the wrong time. Once, Joanna had walked past the guest room and heard Emily laughing. A soft, unguarded laugh Joanna hadn't heard before. She slowed without meaning to. "Oh my God, Lucy, that is not what happened," Emily said, voice low and amused. "You're twisting the story." A pause. "No, she's complicated," Emily continued. Joanna's stomach tightened. She didn't stay long enough to hear more. She didn't want to. The word she echoed too loudly in her mind. Another time, she passed by the kitchen late at night and heard Emily say, "I miss you too, Luce." That one hurt more than she expected. After that, Joanna began pulling back, subtly. She laughed a little less, excused herself earlier, avoided sitting too close. Each time Emily would glance at her with faint confusion, like she felt the shift but couldn't trace its source. Emily had no idea Joanna had overheard anything. The jealousy sat quietly in Joanna's chest, stubborn and irrational. Until one morning, they were seated across from each other at the breakfast table. Suzy and Josh had left to finalize floral arrangements, leaving them alone with coffee and sunlight spilling through the windows. Emily was scrolling through her phone, shaking her head with a smile. "Lucy is already asking for updates," she said casually. "She lives for gossip. I swear she calls just to hear about wedding drama instead of talking about the camp." Joanna stirred her coffee carefully. "Lucy?" "My squad mate," Emily replied easily. "We've been deployed together for years." She smirked faintly. "She's married, but she's bored out of her mind when we're off duty, so now I'm her source of civilian entertainment." Married. The word landed gently and lifted something heavy off Joanna's chest. "Oh," Joanna said, trying and failing to hide the small, relieved curve of her lips. Emily noticed that. "What?" she asked, leaning back slightly, studying her. "Nothing," Joanna replied quickly, but the lightness in her voice betrayed her. For the first time in days, she didn't feel like retreating. Instead, a different thought crept in. Emily was single. And that realization came with a second one, far less comforting. Emily would be leaving. The wedding wasn't for weeks yet, but her leave wasn't endless. She would return to the military. Back to distance. Back to a life Joanna wasn't part of. The ticking clock suddenly became loud. Emily reached across the table absent-mindedly, stealing a piece of toast from Joanna's plate. "You've been weird with me," she said lightly. "Hot and cold." Joanna's breath caught. "Have I?" Joanna stood up too quickly, the chair scraping softly against the floor. She didn't finish. She moved to the sink instead, turning on the tap, though she wasn't thirsty. She walked toward the sink, gripping the edge of the counter as if she needed something solid to hold on to. Emily followed. Joanna didn't hear her footsteps over the sound of her own pulse. She was staring at the running water, barely seeing it, her mind racing. She could say something now, or she could wait. Did I do something? Joanna turned and lost her breath. Emily had stepped in without her noticing. There was barely space between them, close enough that Joanna could feel the warmth radiating from her, close enough that the air felt charged, electric. like a storm gathering quietly between their bodies. Joanna's entire body reacted before her mind could catch up. Her fingers tightened against the counter. Her breath stalled halfway in her chest. "You didn't," Joanna whispered, though her voice betrayed her. Emily's brows softened. "Then why do you keep pulling away?" The question hung between them. Joanna swallowed. "I thought, what's the point? We barely know each other." "Never mind." Emily's expression shifted, firmer now. "What do you have to lose? Tell me." Joanna took a slow breath. She could see every detail of Emily's face from this distance. The faint scar near her eyebrow, the way her lashes cast shadows against her cheeks, the steadiness in her gaze that felt almost unfair. "I thought," Joanna started, then stopped. Emily didn't move back. "Thought what?" Joanna's heart was pounding so loudly she was sure Emily could hear it. "I thought you and Lucy were something." The words came out smaller than she intended. For half a second, Emily just blinked. "Lucy is married," Emily said gently, stepping just a fraction closer, "and she is painfully straight." That unexpected humor softened the air slightly. Joanna let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You were jealous," Emily said, not accusing, just understanding. Joanna's cheeks burned. "I didn't have the right to be." Emily's gaze dropped briefly to Joanna's lips before returning to her eyes. "Maybe you did." The world seemed to narrow to the space between them. "Emily," she breathed, her voice barely steady. "Yes?" She could step back, or she could be brave. "For the first time," Joanna said softly, "I'm not scared of my mom getting married." Emily's expression shifted, curious, cautious. "What are you scared of?" she asked. Joanna's fingers loosened their grip on the counter. "Missing my chance." Silence. Electric. Emily's hand lifted slowly, giving Joanna every opportunity to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. "I leave in 9 days," Emily said quietly. "I know. If this happens," she continued, her voice steady now, "it's real, not just for this week." Joanna didn't step back. Emily searched her face. "You can stop me," she murmured. Joanna's answer came instantly. "Yes." Slowly, Emily's hand slid down to Joanna's waist, drawing her in just enough to erase the space between them. Her other hand cradled Joanna's jaw, thumb brushing gently along her cheek as if memorizing the shape of her. She paused one final second, eyes searching for doubt. There was none. When their lips met, it was quiet, focused, almost restrained. Soft at first, careful, a question answered. Then Joanna leaned into it, fingers curling into the fabric of Emily's shirt, something deeper ignited. A little wild, yet conscious, like it had been waiting for permission. When they pulled back, their foreheads rested together, breaths tangled. "This changes everything," Joanna whispered. Emily's thumb brushed lightly across her cheek again. "Yeah," she said softly. And then she kissed her again.